Welcome to this Civitas Destinations webinar. This time is on the subject of shared mobility and infrastructures towards zero emissions transport, in particular the most successful and transferable solutions, as well as recommendations and lessons learned during the implementation of the measures. I'm very pleased to moderate the session today, and I would like to give you just a quick introduction to the project. Civitas Destination is a 4 years project, now about to come to an end. It is funded by the European Union Civitas initiatives, and it involves 29 partners from 10 European countries, including some cities from China. The project mainly aimed to realize measures and innovative solutions to achieve a sustainable mobility for residents and tourists in 6 European sites. These sites also represent some of the most touristic destinations in Europe. We have Funchal in Madeira, Portugal, Retimno in Crete, Greece, then Las Palmas de Gran Canaria, Spain, Limassol in Cyprus, Elba, Italy, and Valletta in Malta. One of the sets of solutions that have been developed within Civitas Destinations included 14 measures dedicated to the development of ride-sharing mobility services, such as, for example, the case of Elba, with the implementation of a shared use mobility agency, then the development of new or extended bike sharing systems, including asset sharing measures implemented in Las Palmas, Limassol, Malta, and Retimno. And then the measures also aim to foster the uptake of electric vehicles in all of the 6 islands. The main objective here has been the improvement of the overall accessibility and attractiveness of mobility services in the 6 destination sites. Objective of today's webinar is to describe the key achievements, the main successes, but also the challenges, and to outline some recommendations on how to successfully transfer the implemented measures to other sites and cities. These are today's panelists and presenters: Federica Andreucci from Elba, Jordi Casas from Las Palmas, Thomas Papadogiannis from Retimno, Claudia Riquez from Madeira, Cristina Canellacchi from Limassol, Ritian Guajar from Malta, myself and Eleonora from Memex, and then a special thanks to CPMR, Luisa Busba and Panos Korojanakis for the organization of this webinar. Then I would like to, first of all, pass over to Elba, the beautiful island of Elba in Tuscany. And hello, Federica. Federica works for the municipality of Portoferraio in Elba. So in Elba, one of the measures you implemented concerned the shared use mobility agency. Probably is one of the most innovative measures developed in Elba within destinations. And the innovative concept lies in the fact that users have a unique point of access to all mobility offer in the island in a consistent and efficient way. The agency, in fact, coordinates and manages different ride-sharing services integrated with conventional public transport services. Federica, could you please give us just some more information about the agency and in particular describe the main barriers faced during the design, the procurement process and also the implementation phase?
Yeah, well, good morning, Eleonora. First of all, actually, thanks to the implementation of the Elba Sharing Agency, we have learned several lessons, not only technical, but procedural and organizational as well. First of all, we learned that special attention should be paid on the choice of the ICT provider, who has to be properly qualified to carry out the implementation of a system that is highly complex, and therefore specific requirements about the capability of the potential provider should be clearly defined from the beginning in the procurement documents. Then it must be taken into consideration in order to plan and organize the work at best that public procurement requires long time to be finalized, an average of 9 to 12 months across Europe for a bid of more to 100,000 euros. Time is needed in particular for the bid evaluation process, the subsequent negotiation and contract signature with the company selected as winner of the procurement. Thus, it can be argued that it would have been less time consuming and simpler to implement the agency directly within destinations projects, involving from the beginning a qualified IT provider as consortium partner. Moreover, their direct participation in destination project could have further motivated their IT partner in complying with the platform development commitments and timing. And continuing with the lesson learned, another crucial phase is the testing procedure of the different platform versions. And the advice in this case is to pay special attention to set up an adequate management structure. In addition, a close cooperation among public administrations, mobility agencies, and transport operator is strictly required in order to set the enabling framework for the SUMA operation, the Shared Use Mobility Agency. Another important lesson learned regards the local context. It is very important that the technical and functional specifications are tailored around the mobility demand and the specific territorial context through an active involvement of relevant stakeholders and citizens. And finally, but it is a preliminary action, it is essential to first evaluate the need to develop a new platform or to use the existing ones, taking into account eventually the presence of different existing mobility services portal, apps, and in some cases also TNC, the transport network companies.
Thank you, Federica. Yes, indeed, and also your answer raised up another question, that is, the agency, in fact, should be considered as a component of the overall mobility system. At which level it has to be integrated with the public transport services?
Well, as you said, our Shared Use Mobility Agency can be considered an essential component of the overall mobility system, since it helps the residents and tourists to reduce the use of their own cars, providing complete and integrated info mobility to the users. And the ET platform indeed is realized around a unique data layer, collecting and integrating data related to the different actors and mobility services available on the island of Elba, both private and public. And it is part of this framework also the notice board, that can be considered the key component of the Shared Use Mobility Agency. The notice board, in fact, allows users to share rides among each other, requesting and offering trips. In this sense, we can say that the agency integrates the conventional public transport service, but it also helps in answering the dispersed and specific needs of residents and tourists not covered by the conventional public transport bus service.
Yeah, thanks a lot. You mentioned before that business model is really important for trying to implement this concept and to continue working with the shared use mobility agency, even beside the end of Civitas destinations. So which is the defined business model for the agency management and operation?
Well, actually, a specific business model was defined and outlined during the first 2 years of destinations. And it details the financial schemes and revenue aspects and identifies the operational structure and related responsibilities. At first, it was hypothesized that to entrust the whole agency service, the IT platform, management, promotion, etc., to an external company by specific procurement process. And the procurement therefore should have been focused not only on the requirements of the agency management, but also on the requirements and functions of the IT platform. However, the procurement process could be complex and not easy to be managed by the municipality. In any case, specific staff is needed for controlling and monitoring the service contract. The most favorable option right now is to directly entrust the agency service to a municipal company without having to start a procurement process.
Thank you very much, Federica, for your answers. Indeed, the importance of the involvement of the local authority in all phases, from the design to the procurement phase to the implementation and operation phase, is pivotal for this kind of services. Thank you very much, and we're going to keep moving and pass over to Jordi, who works for Cinesi, a company supporting the municipality of Las Palmas in the development of Civitas destinations measure. So, Jordi, hello.
Hello, Eleonora. Good morning.
Hello. Good morning. In Las Palmas, you introduced a new bike system called Cicicleta, that replaced the former bike sharing scheme, Las Palmas by Bike. Bike sharing is quite fashionable at the moment. Would you please describe the main differences between the new system and the previous one?
Well, yeah, the former bike sharing system, LPA by Bike, was a well-meaning attempt to foster urban cycling in the city. But it was not successful as expected due to some design and operational problems, such as technical problems, vandalism. There was an average of 200 incidents per year, and 7 bikes were stolen every month. Also some planning problems because it was not enough aligned with the overall mobility strategy of the city. And finally, also some financial problems because the former bike sharing scheme relied too much on public funds. Then Sagulpa, after a careful assessment of all these problems and barriers, applied the lessons learned to the design of the new bike sharing system, the Cicicleta, which is based in the use of high quality equipment that is resistant, anti-theft, and safe. It is also based on, it is a digital based service, which make it much more easy to manage and to continuously improve the operations. It is also an integrated system, both in terms of integration with the overall public space, contributing to an improvement of this public space, and also integrated in terms of multimodality, because the system can be used with the same contactless card as in the public transport network. The Cicicleta is also based on a business model that takes into account the needs and requirements of a wide range of target groups. and is continuously looking for new revenue streams like sponsorships. And finally, the Cicleta has also improved the communication strategy regarding the promotion of cycling in the city, carrying on several communication and information campaigns, especially focused on tourists.
Thank you, Jordi. So according to your experience, is bike sharing the most convenient measure in favor of the bike use? And why did you choose the bike sharing station-based scheme instead of a free-floating one?
Well, implementing a bike sharing scheme is very important to foster urban cycling. But in Las Palmas, we think that the most convenient way to foster urban cycling is a mix of push and pull measures. In fact, the Cicleta has been coordinated and integrated with the overall strategy to promote cycling in the city. So on the one hand, in parallel with the deployment of the bike sharing system, there has been an improvement of the cycling infrastructure with new bike lanes and new parking infrastructure, new bike racks, and so on. And on the other hand, several traffic calming measures have been implemented during the same period, trying to push away car drivers from using their cars and shifting to use the bike. And regarding the second question, the choice of the station-based bike sharing system is also aligned with this overall cycling strategy, which is based on setting realistic milestones and goals. So Sagulpa decided to go for a progressive deployment of the system and testing new technologies like e-bikes and new management schemes like free floating in pilot tests. And if the results of these pilots are satisfactory, Sagulpa will certainly move on and shift from station-based to free floating.
Okay, that's really interesting, Jordi. And the fact that the bike sharing system should be integrated in the overall mobility offer and in the urban structure of the city is very, very important to be taken into account. Which kind of funding model would you suggest for a bike sharing system? In your case, for example, have the bike sharing system attracted private investment?
Well, in Las Palmas, we would suggest to the involvement of a public body in all stages of bike sharing system deployment during the design stage, the implementation, and the operation stage. However, we think that a bike sharing system should never rely only on public funds. So we are continuously looking for new revenue streams like sponsorships from private companies that fund some stations that are located nearby their businesses. And we are now developing a new big data tool to use data analytics to identify and design new tailored mobility services that we can sell to a new target groups, new customers, or to other businesses.
Okay, thank you very much for your answers, Jordi. It can be said that a detailed feasibility study including also a sort of business models in terms of real cost for the authority for the implementation of the bike sharing scheme, of a new bike sharing scheme, should be considered as a must for a local authority before starting with the implementation. Okay, thank you, Jordi. So
Welcome.
we are going to keep moving and pass over to Thomas, who works for the municipality of Rethymno in Crete. Hello, Thomas.
Hello, Eleonora. Good morning.
Good morning. So within destinations in Rethymno, you also realize, for example, the first dockless e-bike sharing system in Greece launched a new scooter sharing system, but at the same time, you also installed the first public electric vehicle charging points in the Crete region, and promoted the uptake of electric vehicles, aiming to enhance the circulation of zero-emission vehicles from tourists and citizens. Could you please describe the efforts in deploying electromobility in Rethymno, and also the main challenges you face during the design, procurement, and implementation phase?
Yes, Eleonora, in Rethymno, we wanted to uptake electromobility as a whole, not only the bike sharing, the electric bike sharing systems and the scooters that are successfully operating, but also to promote electric vehicles and zero-emission vehicles in the city. But to be realistic, to introduce electric vehicles as an alternative mode of transport in the region of Crete was a very big challenge for us. As you may recall, almost 5 years ago, people were not familiar with electric vehicles, and their benefits, especially in Crete, were where there existed only one or maybe two electric vehicles in the entire region, were very little known. We had no charging infrastructure at all in public spaces, and in general there was very limited interest for electric vehicles. Even today, the growth of electromobility worldwide is far from being rapid. There are several difficulties hindering the widespread adoption of the electric vehicles, such as the high cost for the dedicated energy supply needed for the infrastructure, or the fact that the electric vehicles remain significantly more expensive in comparison to conventional vehicles. And of course, because of the still scarce autonomy of the electric vehicle, there is a general fear and anxiety among users concerning the safety issues and the duration of the batteries. So, trying to find a starting point for us, it became quite obvious that in order to facilitate the uptake of electric vehicles, we should begin by providing the proper infrastructure, enabling and encouraging the circulation of zero-emission vehicles, both by residents and tourists. Of course, we faced several barriers. First of all, there were no regulations, no technical specification regarding the installation of public charging points in public spaces. The technology is still quite new, and we had plenty of questions regarding the appropriate type of charger, fast charging, slow charging points, the types that we should use to be universal for every potential electric vehicles. And of course, it was very difficult to estimate the actual needs for electric power needed and therefore the grid availability. So we began with a location study and a grid efficiency study in order to install the very first 3 public electric vehicle charging stations for the first time in the entire region, offering free charging and free parking spots for all electric vehicles circulating in Rethymno. And a few months later, we managed to secure additional funding for another fast charging station. All 4 of them are located in central areas in the city so that they can be easily found by everyone. Also, another important issue was the signage. It is very important and with the help of our partner in Civitas Destinations, the Technical University of Crete, we designed a dedicated signage for the charging stations and the designated parking slots, incorporating elements to promote electromobility and support the sustainable profile of the city. And as a last but for sure not least task, we organized several awareness and informational campaigns, including test drives, public events to promote the uptake of electric vehicles. With multiple stakeholder consultations, we wanted to identify the existing challenges and barriers, and of course to find out together the potential solutions that we had to overcome. One-to-one meetings with fleet operators, car rental companies, and taxi fleets were conducted, not only to motivate them, but also to learn from the professionals, the people that actually knew the real problems. We also engaged the Association of Travel and Tourist Agencies and Hoteliers Associations in order to help us promote the new service to their guests. We discussed the ways they could find to offer extra services to their customers and thus turn electromobility into a good opportunity for additional services to their clients. And finally, we conducted some, we like to believe, very successful awareness and informational campaigns that included test drives, public events, and in order to promote the uptake of EVs, targeting both locals and visitors. Especially the test driving events attracted many people that could be more informed and had the chance to have a hands-on experience of the multiple advantages of electromobility. The successful promotion and the concrete results we achieved allows us to unlock extra funding and attracted private investors to help us install more charging stations in the city. And now we managed to unlock additional ERDF funding of around 50,000 euros for 3 additional EV charging stations. In cooperation with the Hellenic Electricity Distribution Network operator, we plan to install some additional EV charging points within the administrative boundaries of the municipality. And in cooperation with the regional government of Crete, we are sharing our experience to help them install more charging stations at a regional level, expanding further the charging network for electric vehicles on the island. So, although we surely have a long way to go, we are incredibly happy to see that our efforts are bearing fruits and concrete results. The number of EVs in the city are increasing every month with a geometrical speed, despite the pandemic and the temporarily slowdown caused by the lockdown. And with the help of some new incentives that were announced by the central government, we are expecting the numbers to surprise us very pleasantly in the following months.
Thank you very much, Thomas. And which of the actions you undertook for promoting e-vehicles use towards residents and tourists you found most effective, most powerful, let's say?
Well, I have to say that the test driving exhibitions we organized, especially during the European Mobility Weeks, were very successful. We organized them in a very national-wide way. We we discussed with all the importers of electric vehicles in the country and made sure that we had a model of every electric vehicle available in the country so that people could be informed and they had an actual experience of the electric vehicle, because when you discuss with people and tell stories that they cannot feel or understand, it is very difficult to convince. But once they drive an electric vehicle and they see the different feeling, the easiness, and that it is something real, it makes it much more easy to convince them and try to buy one.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Then, yeah, we're going to keep moving and pass over to Claudia, who works for the Regional Agency for Energy and Environment in Madeira. Hello, Claudia.
Hello, good morning, Eleonora.
Good morning, Claudia. Good morning. So in Madeira too, you implemented measures to boost electric mobility and to spread knowledge, create the conditions, let's say, to increase the use of electric vehicles among private and public fleets and also citizens.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yes.
So according to your experience in implementing these measures, which are the most important aspects a local authority should consider in the uptake of electric mobility?
Yes. First, I would like to make a short introduction or just summarize the activities that we have been done to uptake the electric mobility in Madeira. I should say that this is a measure coordinated by ADM, Energy Agency, but it has a strong involvement of the regional government, municipality of Funchal, and Horários do Funchal also. We work mainly, I should say, in 4 axes. That was to prepare a plan for the promotion of electric mobility adopted by regional government, in which it was defined objectives and goals, measurable goals in the time frame of 2017 and 2020. The expansion of e-charging network was another issue because we already had some network but was very limited and didn't follow the progress of the electric mobility. So the expansion of the network was very important, not only in public spaces, but mainly in private spaces. I should say that we had involved and aware the accommodations, hotels, restaurants, even airports, rent-a-cars, so they can be prepared for their clients to have electric vehicles and they could charge, for instance, in hotels during the night. Another issue in the expansion of the network was the charging in households, in buildings, in services. People should be allowed to install and are by law allowed to install charging points in their slots in private buildings. And in the new one should have the pre-installation for the inhabitants could install charging points in their parking spaces. So this of course it involves several stakeholders to prepare this network. This is of course now growing. It's not a finished job. Another axis was the incentive scheme, create incentive scheme for the acquisition of electric vehicles. Since for instance, to discriminate positively the people that have electric vehicles, they don't pay in some cities. Here in Madeira, for instance, in Funchal, it's free for electric vehicles. And in case of regional government has created a fund to support part of the investment done by citizens and companies, which helps to encourage citizens to buy and companies to buy the electrical vehicles. Another important act was the information and communication, and people need to have a good knowledge about the solutions. What is the benefits? What are the benefits? What are the problems? And we also concluded that, for instance, in Madeira, which has very high slopes, what was an information that the technology doesn't fit in Madeira, it's now recognized as an advantage because the solution has a very good response in slopes, and he has the advantage of when you are climbing down, it can charge the battery with no payment because of the use of the energy to store that is stored in the battery. So we organize several campaigns to inform, to clarify, to take doubts. Now we are, I must say that we are running a campaign in this month of September, which we are doing an effort to pass information. We are making tomorrow. In this night, at the end of the day, we will have a chat online. It will be 3 chats about different aspects of electric mobility, and we are doing live in Facebook and YouTube, and people can put their doubts and comments, and we already had one, and it's very nice. It's online, it's available for people to see it, and it's being a very nice experience. The campaign also involved the marketers. We invite them to present a special price for the campaign, so that people can use this discount to encourage to buy vehicles. And we have a website, a platform where people can do their registration, and they can buy a car with a cheaper price, which of course it's the other problem. It's the price of the technology that is higher than the thermal car model. And the campaign is running very well, and we until now, we started on the 1st of September. Until now, we have 260 registers, which is very good for us. So about the question, what are the important aspects for the authorities to consider to uptake the electric mobility? So I would say that a good plan is very important. A plan with actions and goals for that plan can be monitored. But a good communication is also important, because citizens and companies need to understand why that plan, why the benefits, what I will win. So it's very important so all the interested parts have knowledge and understand why we should change the model. Of course, we need to create regulation. Regulation is something that you need for the network, charging network, safety issues, rules, new rules. For instance, for buildings, new buildings need to accommodate the possibility, as I mentioned, to install charging stations in the private buildings. The other main issues to involve stakeholders. Stakeholders are crucial for the good performance of a strategy in this field, and there are a lot of roles in this model, and we need all working together and in a coordinated way to have good results and outcomes. Of course, information, as I mentioned, people need to have a good base of information and need to test. Lots of doubts are solved in a test drive, for instance. when you try for a week, when you see the energy consumptions, how the technology responds to their needs, and for companies, for citizens, test drive is of course a good element. And you need to show, if you are an authority, you need to show the good practices. And if the good practices come from you, from your services, it's a very good model. And it should be, you can't ask people to do a huge investment if you don't do it. If you don't do it, why you don't do it? You don't believe in technology? So government and local authorities and regional authorities or whatever need to show by their own example, of course. The other aspect is, of course, in the uptake for the pioneers that are making investments with some doubts, but they believe, of course, that they are paying the price of a new technology, which is not so new, but it's even a minority. So they need support to do the investments. I think it's very fair. And of course, good information, good platforms where to take to people can put their doubts and be clarified.
Thank you very much, Claudia. It has been really exhaustive. Thank you. Yes, in fact, as you said, the direct involvement of the local authority is very important also to try to overcome this kind of mistrust from citizens, from persons to use this new technology. So you put in place really nice information campaigns, also the use of social media and all the events you're organizing today and in the past, I think would be really, really useful for going directly to the people and try to answer to their questions. Thank you very much, Claudia. Thank you. So we're going to keep moving and pass over to Christina, who works for Limassol Tourism Company. Hello, Christina.
Hello, Eleonora.
So in Limassol, you also made several promotion campaigns and stakeholders engagement. You implemented several measures, from the expansion of the bike sharing system with installation of new bike parking facilities, the increase of the numbers of the available e-bikes for rent, the installation of new EV charging stations, and all these have been promoted widely in Limassol. Could you please describe how were residents and tourists involved and how did they respond?
Hi, Eleonora. First of all, I would like to say that electromobility is a very new concept in Limassol and Cyprus in general. Through the Destinations project, we have taken the first steps towards to the use of electric vehicles. An integrated communication strategy has been designed and implemented, and therefore we organized electromobility campaigns in order to raise awareness on the electric modes of transport and to showcase their benefits, with the aim to increase the number of users in the regions. In the beginning of the project, our company organized face-to-face meetings with the basic stakeholders like the Cyprus Electricity Authority, the bike sharing company and car rental companies, in order to present the destination project and to give them incentives to cooperate and to contribute to the increase of the use of electric vehicles. Limassol Tourist Company participated successfully in the European Mobility Week events since 2017 by organizing annual festivals with a lot of activities for tourists and for residents. Those activities included the exhibition of electric cars, opportunity for a test drive, and the use of EV chargers. Moreover, the main success was the promotion of an electromobility culture through promotional and communication campaigns that included social media, articles in local and national magazines, radio publicity, and brochures. The promotional material that was designed highlighted the most important information and through campaigns, the awareness has increased. During the events and campaigns, a total number of 2,500 people were reached, and the participants were very interested in all activities and the opportunities offered. In cooperation with the Electricity Authority of Cyprus, 10 new EV charging stations have been installed in Limassol region by the end of 2019, and promotional material created and maps that present the location coordinates of all EV chargers in the whole island. And of course, the intervention of Limassol Tourism Company and its board of directors leading to the great support of the local and national politicians, and as a result, all events gained high publicity and attract more visitors.
Thank you very much, Christina. If you could think of a barrier that still has to be faced, what would you say?
About the barriers?
Yeah.
Actually, I want to present that the locals and tourists are aware about the environment and also how they can contribute to less pollution, less noise, less traffic. But we found out that they prefer to choose mobility options based to the cost and not to the environment. In Cyprus, the use of electric cars is extremely low because of the high cost of electric vehicles. This factor can be presented as a major barrier also for the individuals and the car rental companies in order to proceed with the purchase of electric vehicles. But nevertheless, with the expansion of the EV charging networks in Cyprus and the organization of the communication campaigns, we witnessed an increase in the use of electric cars in 2019 in Cyprus.
Thank you very much, Christina. Thank you. So now, last but not least, we pass over to Ritian, who works for the Transport Authority in Malta. Hello, Ritian.
Hello from Malta. Hello.
Hello. So in Malta, you also developed a very successful promotion campaign supporting the bike sharing services and the car sharing system. And shared mobility services are probably a new but rapidly growing phenomenon in Malta. So the promotion campaign was really a useful measure for getting citizens and visitors aware of these systems. Could you please, Ritian, describe how were residents and tourists involved in this promotion campaign and how did they respond?
Yes, that's right, Eleonora. So through the Destinations Project in Malta, we have implemented an awareness raising campaign where we have put a special focus on educating the public on cycling safety, but also on raising awareness on the potential of cycling as a mode of transport. So to give you a brief background on the situation in Malta, cycling is perceived as a leisure activity, where it contributes to just 0.3% of our modal share. And this can be attributed to the fact that the public's perception of cycling is that it is unsafe. So with this measure, we took the opportunity to contribute towards changing that perception and having the resulting shift in the modal share, and we expected a decrease in congestion, pollution, and journey delay. Now, this information and awareness campaign was delivered by means of infographics and videos that we have prepared, and we promoted these on social media, on radio, television, and printed material. Also, promoting the concept of shared transport, we participated in numerous fairs, national fairs, and also Freshers Week, for example, where we targeted the younger population cohort who are looking to be more independent from a mobility perspective. So yes, as you have said, our campaign has targeted both tourists and residents. So on one hand, tourists were presented with a more sustainable alternative to rented vehicles, and this was with the aim to lessen the impact on our transport infrastructure during the peak tourist season. And on the other hand, the residents were presented with a viable transport option to the private car. It's very much embedded in our Maltese culture. How did the receivers respond? Yes, so the impact of the introduction of shared mobility services in Malta and our promotion and awareness campaign has been evaluated through a series of surveys with a sample which was representative of the Maltese population. So we had the baseline survey at the beginning of the campaign, and then we had numerous surveys throughout the campaign, and a more recent survey to better analyze the effectiveness. And this has helped us to understand the effectiveness of the campaign and also the response from the receivers. And we have come to understand that not all segments of society are ready to embrace such forms of transport. However, looking at the aggregated data set of the surveys, it has become clear that the younger respondents were more positive towards bike sharing and shared transport in general. And that is very encouraging. And we have also understood that the higher education level of the respondent, the more positive the attitude to shared mobility services. And with this, we can better target other groups, population groups, in promoting shared transport and especially bike sharing.
Thank you, Ritian. And was the campaign more targeted to bike sharing users, so to foster bike sharing use, or to non-users, so on the aspect of awareness and safety issues?
Yes, so the promotional campaign in general has supported the bike sharing services which were recently launched in Malta. So the system is very innovative for Malta, and the general public might have encountered such systems abroad. But it was very important to promote these new services, encouraging their use, but also very importantly, making their added value known. So primarily, the campaign encouraged residents to make use of shared transport vehicles, but also educated the public on cycling safety. As I have mentioned earlier, there's the perception that cycling is very unsafe in Malta. So we also wanted to target that to encourage cycling. On the one hand, drivers were targeted and educated on how to interact with cyclists on the road, and the cyclists themselves were then educated on how to react when on the road. Also to encourage further the uptake of cycling. Educating the target audience on cycling safety and directly promoting cycling as a viable mode of commute, Transport Malta also indirectly promoted and encouraged the use of bike sharing. So we're targeting cycling, but also indirectly also bike sharing.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I think we're going to conclude because we have already run out of time. Thank you very much, Ritian, for your answers. So several lessons and key recommendations came out from the discussion. First of all, to skip from holistic visions to the integration of the ride-sharing solutions with the overall mobility and public transport services. Then the need of the direct involvement of the local authorities in all stages of implementations, and the need also for the local authority to make a detailed preliminary feasibility study to understand the real cost and convenience for a choice of a mobility scheme or for investing on electric vehicles. Tailor-made and powerful information awareness and demonstration campaigns are very important with the direct involvement of main decision makers, local actors and citizens. And also in the 6 destination sites demonstrated that public-private collaboration is a win-win approach. So the direct involvement of private companies can really accelerate the shift towards more sustainable mobility. So I hope you find it interesting, and I invite you to learn more about shared mobility and the infrastructures visiting our website.